And welcome to the Waterloo City Council meeting. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bozen?
Here.
Mr. Nichols?
Here.
Mr. Childs?
Here.
Mr. Greider?
Here.
Ms. Wilder?
Here.
Mr. Foyce?
Here. First up, we would like to take a moment of silence, and if we could, former Chief Fitzgerald, please keep him in your thoughts and prayers on the tragic shooting death of his son in Philadelphia this weekend. So thank you. All right, our pledge this evening is going to be led by at-large council member Rob Nichols.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Mr. Greider.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes, sir.
I would like to adopt the agenda as proposed, as well as the minutes of the February 6, 2023 regular session as proposed.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Oh, sorry, roll call, sorry.
Just kidding.
Oh, yeah, the amendment for the, yep. It's sitting right in front of me and I forgot.
With the amendment to the, you want the budgets or the consent agenda?
No, the consent, remove item number 4.
Yeah, an amendment to the consent agenda to remove item number 4 per request of the Finance Department.
Okay, so we have a, oh, sorry, yep.
Second.
Yep, motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, first up, we have public comments. We didn't have anybody who was registered to speak, but if there's somebody who wants to speak on a non-agenda item, please come up and do that. You'll get 3 minutes. And this is just a reminder, if you're here to speak on the ordinance, that will be at the end of the evening. So everybody, you please be prepared to stay with us until the very end. All right, before I allow you to speak, will you remove your hat, please, sir?
My name's Dwayne Eilers. I live at 1205 and a half Bishop Street. I've been a resident.
Hi, Mr. Eilers, I appreciate that. I did ask. Could you please remove your hat?
No.
Okay, then I can't allow you to speak right now without removing. No, I can't. I'm not going to recognize you.
Well, we had this once before.
We have.
Had me arrested for not taking my hat off to
Okay.
bow down to you.
I'm not asking you
I
to
have
bow
the right
down.
to dress any way I feel. My First Amendment rights say
You do. Mr. Eilers, I want you
I'm
to,
not bowing down to you by taking my hat off.
Okay,
Do I
then-
get to speak or I don't?
not tonight, sir. Thank you.
Refuse to speak.
Have a good night, sir. Thank you.
Well, I wanted to speak on
No,
your
Mr. Eilers.
outrageous tax assessment
Thank
against
you, Mr.
all
Eilers.
properties in Waterloo.
We have a lot on our agenda tonight, and I'm sure there are other people that will abide by our rules. So if you would take a seat,
I'm not allowed to
please.
speak because I won't take my hat off.
That's been our rule since I've been on
You're
council.
refusing me because I don't dress the way you want me to.
Mr. Eilers, have a great night.
No, I'm going to speak.
Mr.
Say my
Eilers.
piece, 3 minutes.
Mr.
What I'm allowed.
We haven't recognized you.
No.
You can't, you will get 3 minutes when you remove your hat and I recognize you as chair.
I'm hard of hearing.
I said, I will recognize you when you remove your hat, and then you may have your 3 minutes, but I have not recognized you. The timer is not lit.
Okay, I'll take my hat off to tell you people what you are. You run the city right in a hole by taxing people to death. Since this mayor came here, we've had increased taxes, and you guys all went along with him, just following him like a bunch of sheep. That's what you're doing. 14% increase. Last year was what? Another increase, and the increase before that. When are you going to quit taxing us? You want a fat raise? Every one of you get a raise. Every one of you get more money in your retirement. You're not doing nothing for us. The $14.5 million that you gave out here to the theme park could have rehabbed 300 homes on the east side here and not made it a slum that it is now because you don't do nothing. And then you ride all the landlords to death because we don't kiss up to you. Since the last meeting I was here, code enforcement went against every property I have, refused to do anything. property at 406 Litchfield since October. My road has been blocked with junk. The city refused to do anything. Code enforcement refused to do anything. City attorney refused to do anything. I went to the judge and got him evicted. He still worked outside my property in the middle of the street. None of you did nothing. City cleanup finally showed up in February, 5 months later, to haul the trash out of the middle of the street. 5 months, you guys did nothing. And I talked to the city attorney, code enforcement, the lawyer, the police department come out and finally tagged the vehicles, 2, 3 junk cars, 2 junk trailers, and said, well, it's your job. You can have them towed away. 2 years before that, I had a trailer sitting on that same property. Code enforcement tagged it on Friday and towed it on Monday. The same property. Yet they leave this junk 5 months because I speak up to them. I don't like them. They don't like me, and you don't either, because we tell you like it is. You're doing nothing for the citizens in Waterloo. You're making yourself fat raises, fat everything else. So my time up, I got a little time left. Now, all the money that you're giving out, free lots for $1, putting crossroads into your tax increment so that none of the tax money goes to the general funds. You're doing a great job. You're robbing every citizen in town. Pretty soon you're going to run most of them out of town. Take my hat off to you.
Thank you, Mr. Eilers. Anybody else have any comments on non-agenda related items? Please state your name and address for the record.
David Charles Youngblood, 315 Randolph Street. Back again over this dirty yard issue. I figure we got a way we could probably work on this deal. You guys sell me that lot at on or about 621 2nd Street. It tees into my yard. Then I could build some more garage stalls and we'd have more storage room to put some of my work paraphernalia. Because there's nothing in my yard that isn't worth money or wouldn't be there. And the way everybody steals everything in my yard, I'm surprised I got anything. But think about it, 621 2nd Street, you sell it to me, you don't got to worry about moving the snow anymore, you don't got to worry about mowing the grass, and you'll increase your the city revenue and more taxes. And this man's probably right, you're probably going to charge me more tax than it's worth, but I'd rather do that than pay you for something I didn't do. I'll let you go with that.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else comments on non-agenda related items?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the Waterloo City Council, my name is Marcella Groover.
Mrs. Gruber, is this is this pertaining to the letter that you gave us?
No, this
No.
pertains to, I wanted you to know that information, and this is pertaining to the ban.
Okay, yep. So we're gonna talk about that later. This is for
Oh,
not.
you want me to speak later on?
Yep,
Okay.
yep, please, thank you very much. Okay, anybody else on non-agenda related items? Hi, please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Stephanie Strickland, and I live in Cedar Falls, actually,
Okay.
at 315 Brenton Drive. And so I'm a student in the social work program at UNI and a peer recovery coach at Pathways Behavioral Services. And I'm here today to advocate for the unhoused population as an advocacy project and to create change where I see that it's needed on a daily basis. There's a lot of prejudice from landlords against people coming out of the homeless or the unhoused shelters who are trying to find housing, and this creates yet another barrier for them. I believe that there needs to be an incentive program for landlords, specifically to motivate landlords to rent to individuals coming from these shelters. The program could include funds to put a triple deposit down or to have a pool to draw from if the landlord does not receive rent from the tenant. Also, I believe that it would be very productive to create more blended income housing in the area to allow low-income individuals to live alongside other people in their community and to cut down on the stigma on the individuals based on where they live, the location. And also, that would motivate the low-income individuals, or also that the low-income individuals can see how a higher education is important and valuable, and that it could motivate the unemployed or undereducated to pursue a higher education or employment, which would help prevent low-income individuals from becoming unhoused. Blended income housing also allows members of society who might have prejudice to see that the low-income individuals are people just like themselves, and that it's not productive to look down on them or to put more barriers in their way. If these ideas are something you'd like to embark on, I'd love to help. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for speaking today.
And I have my contact information here if you guys wanted it all. Too.
Okay, can you just leave it with Chris and then he'll get
I
it to us?
appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Wayne Nathan, 548 Cloverdale here in Waterloo. As I'm driving through the city, I'm starting to see quite a few potholes that's showing up. One of the big ones is over near Kern Street and Broadway, the street that I travel quite frequently. I think we need to start getting the city pothole gang out and start filling up some of these holes and so forth. But I'm sure throughout the city there's quite a few of them, because I see them on Broadway, I see them on Franklin, I see them on Dubuque Road. And I think we need to start getting active and filling some of these and do it when the pothole is dry, not when it's wet, because when it's wet, oil and water, it's not going to mix and it's going to just come back out. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. And for those at home, we do have, you can do that on our website. And if you are unable to access the website, then please call our streets department and let them know as well.
Mainly around the manholes.
Yep.
And the concrete around the manholes. Yeah. Some of them is getting pretty big right now.
Yep. And I know Mr. Bennett has done a good job of getting some new equipment for us to be able to do that. The hard part is, we seem to have a snow event almost every week, and we're expecting another one Wednesday into Thursday. So it seems to be the time to do that. But thank you for your comments today.
I hope the weatherman's wrong when it comes Wednesday, Thursday.
Sure, a lot of people do. So a lot of people are that way. Thank you. Anybody else comments?
Hi, everybody. I'm not a citizen of Waterloo, but I'm a student at the University of Northern Iowa. I'm a freshman history student, and I'm also part of Northern Iowa student government.
Okay, can we just have your name and address for the record? Thank you.
For address.
What's that?
You mean address?
Yeah, name and address, yep.
Yep. My name is Grant Pedersen. I'm from 39 Pinehurst Circle in Ottumwa.
Okay.
And I'm a part of NISG, which is Northern Iowa student government. And about 2 weeks ago, I was appointed to be the new Waterloo, Iowa City Council liaison for the student government, and along with someone else that was appointed to be Cedar Falls. And just here to introduce myself and tell you guys a little bit about who I am and just what I can do to help you guys bridge the gap between, I guess, Waterloo and UNI, since UNI is not just Cedar Falls College, it's also Waterloo, because Waterloo is the bigger city. You actually think about it. And I think in the grand scheme of things, Waterloo could do more to be with the university, maybe compared to what Cedar Falls does. I think there's a lot of good opportunities in order to make that happen. And I guess if you guys have any other questions for me, I'll probably be at a few city council meetings once a month or something like that. And thanks for letting me speak today.
Perfect. Thanks, Grant, and welcome. Hi.
Good evening. Todd Oberdahl, 124 Amity Drive. Well, the subject of the First Amendment has already been broached. I'd like to take this opportunity to make the observation that we have an empty chair up here tonight. A few weeks ago, it was asserted that that chair was empty because some people wanted to have an election. The fact of the matter is that chair is empty because there was an election held ahead of time. There wasn't an election held ahead of time, and there is an empty chair up here, and Ward 4 does not have representation because nobody insisted on having an election prior to January. Reviewing the state code, an individual can resign their position, basically post-date the resignation. When the gentleman that had that chair previously won election to the state legislature, everybody knew that he was not going to be here anymore. Instead of having an election in December, which could have happened, powers that be tried to put in somebody without a vote. I find it amazing that this town that prides itself on being the most diverse town in all the state of Iowa would want to deny voting to the most minority ward in the city. And everyone up here had a part in that. The gentleman that had the chair could have resigned early. I've heard some talk, he could have resigned before the election. We knew how that was shaping up. He ran unopposed. And could have had an election on election day in November, no cost to the city. No. People were trying to put in somebody, wanted somebody that would be approved by people voted on by other parts of the city. That is the truth of the matter. We had an imploring from this dais towards the people of the Fourth Ward that it's really a tragedy that this chair is empty. The fact of the matter is the people up here are the ones that are responsible for that empty chair. Every single one. Nobody stood up and insisted on an election. Nobody went back and said to the previous holder, hey, why don't you turn in your resignation? We get this done in December. Or why don't you turn in your resignation and we have the election in November. Kill two birds with one stone. Somehow that wasn't important enough, and it didn't happen. And today that chair is empty. It is not outside powers, outside forces, people that exercise their state right to file a petition to have an election rather than appointment, that this chair is empty tonight. It is not the fault of them that there wasn't an election last week on February 7th, 2 weeks ago. It's not their fault. I was taken out of here because it was asserted that there was going to be an election when the discussion hadn't even happened yet. That wasn't true. But what was true, what was clear, is that the decision had already been made before there was any discussion. I was told that we hadn't decided if it was going to be February 7th or March 7th, but there was no discussion. It just went to March 7th. Y'all made that decision ahead of time. Really didn't care what was going to be set up here. You didn't care before about having an election ahead of time. I just want to put on the record once again that the fact that that chair is empty tonight is because of the people up here. Nobody stood up. Nobody stood up for the basic fundamental right of people to vote on who represents them. If there's one thing that's most important for this body to do is to maintain basic rights, civil rights of people. More important than a budget, more important than a convention center, more important than any ordinance that's on the agenda tonight is the right of the people to determine who is going to make those decisions for them. And to sit back and say that we're going to have the rest of the town, people that are voted on by people outside of Ward 4, decide who is going to represent Ward 4. It's an abomination. Martin Luther King in his I Have a Dream speech said, what good is it what difference is it whether a black man can't vote in Alabama or doesn't have someone to vote for in New York? Congratulations, you filled both of those roles.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else? Non-agenda related items? Going a second time. Council?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, but Mr. Greider, go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor Pro
That's
Tem.
okay.
So I want to congratulate West High senior Haley Pook for making her 2,000th point this weekend. That's a really big achievement in the history of West High, and Waterloo has a great and long history of sports, and I'm just really proud. I might be a little biased, but I'm very proud of the West team and all that they are doing. I do think it's very interesting that we want to assert things, but we don't have evidence for them. But we'll get into that another time. I will say, in the face of transparency, you should go back and check the record because there was someone who wanted to have a special election, and that person was me. So it does help to make sure that we're being factually accurate when we're dealing with these pesky things called facts. Finally, I will be having a constituent forum at 5:30 p.m. On March 30th at the Waterloo Library. Everyone is welcome because I have nothing to hide and I'm willing to talk to every single person that comes about whatever they want to talk about. So I hope to see folks there who want to talk about these issues and really talk about them and really get into the nitty-gritty. Thank you.
Any other comments, council?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. President,
Yep. Go ahead.
thank you. No comment on everything that was said prior. Speaking with facts is really important. And if you have issues, you should approach your council member. Something that has been approached with me a lot in my neighborhood in particular, but in my ward, is there is a new internet company in town and they have started construction around certain areas. So I thought it would be very important to have a ward meeting this time focused on that subject. So this weekend is my monthly Ward 1 City Council meeting, and it will be specifically focused on fiber and the companies that are currently doing work in the city fiber project. We will have our own Director of Public Works, just want to make sure, Mr. Randy Bennett there to answer any questions about the fiber network and what's currently happening in the city and the process that that will entail in our neighborhoods. So I hope to see you there, especially if you have specific questions regarding internet and fiber for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Nichols first, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. So I wanted to bring to everyone's attention that, in case they don't know, we're entering, starting April 1st, the Iowa Medicaid, the Unwind program will be in full effect. And for those that aren't familiar with that, because of the public health emergency, states were required to continuously cover anybody who had Iowa Medicaid, whether or not they still qualified. There was a requirement to continue coverage during the public health emergency. Now, starting April 1st, and actually the letters have already gone out, there will be a 12-month redetermination period. So anybody who has Iowa Medicaid, when their reapplication month comes up, they will be redetermined whether or not they qualify. And if they don't qualify, they will not have insurance coverage anymore. Now, letters were sent out and are being sent out to the addresses that Medicaid currently has on file. So if anybody moved or no longer live at the address they had when they last went through redetermination, they may not get that letter. So if anybody, or you know anybody, or if you have Medicaid coverage, I would implore you to call Iowa Medicaid Services to make sure your address on file is current and up to date. And then also it may be beneficial to ask when your redetermination month is coming up, just so you don't run the risk of suddenly losing your Medicaid coverage.
Thanks, Mr. Nichols. Mr. Bozen?
I was just going to ask Mr. Child what time and where his meeting was at.
Oh, and thank you for that, Mr. Boson. It is at noon this Saturday in this room. So noon this Saturday, this room, from noon until 1 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boson.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, sir. Ma'am, geez, yes, ma'am.
It's okay. So since the last Sunday of the month is coming up, we will be having our Ward 3 constituent meeting, and that'll be in the public library in meeting room A and B. If you know anyone that lives in Ward 3, I encourage you to invite them, or just in general, if you know anyone that wants to get involved with the city or wants to be a part of the community, encourage them to come to city council meetings or find out who their council person is, just so that we can help them get involved and keep up all the good work that we're doing. And I am going to give a shout out to Brooke, because she messaged me today asking how she can get involved. And I said, start coming to city council meetings. And she's at a city council meeting. That's big, because a lot of people don't do that. So good job on you for getting involved.
All right, anybody else? Okay, may I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to close public comment.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
I'd like to move to adopt the consent agenda with the addition to 1A1, bills payment for February 13th, 2023, in the amount of $1,587,250.66. And then for Monday, February 20th, 2023, $1,759,897.91, as well as the removal of item 4.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, or vote.
Yours works now.
Yeah, mine worked this time. All right, everybody's voted? Okay. Motion carries. All right, before we move on, is Scott Strader here this evening? No, okay, so Scott is new to the Chief Plumbing Inspector position in the Building Inspection Department. Coming up tomorrow is his first day. So congratulations to Scott and welcome to the City of Waterloo. We also have numerous appointments. Allison Richter, Tim Moses, Tom Powers, all to the Waterloo Leisure Services Commission Board, Steve Kerrigan, Dale Taylor, Nilvia Reyes Rodriguez to the Waterloo Culture and Arts Commission, and then Chris Bering to the Airport Board. Do we have any of you here this evening? All right, thank you for being here and thank you for your service to our city. Thank you. All right, public hearing number 1, please.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Mr. Greider.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing, and that's for the FY24 budget maximum property tax levy.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
So anybody want to come up and talk about the maximum property tax levy? Going a second time?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, motion carries.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
I'd like to adopt a resolution approving the maximum property tax askings as defined under Iowa Code Section 384.15A in the amount of $42,260,443, an increase in applicable collections of $5,091,360, or a 13.69% for the budget year ending June 30th, 2024.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please note that this is where we don't want to be here. This is where we're at currently, and we're going to work to lower this as much as possible. For those of you that may be new to city government, however, by state code, we have to set this maximum budget, and then we have to work through some stuff because there are things that the state of Iowa, you note that we pulled one of our public hearing on to approve the budget because they have there's some residential rollback taxes that needed to be fixed, and they've given us and cities and towns in Iowa until April 30th to do that instead. So, council, any other questions or comments? Okay, roll call, or roll call, please. Sorry, vote. I don't know what we're calling it.
Oh, here we go.
Thank you for your patience with us. We're all still learning our new system. Good. All right. Motion carries. All right. Public hearing number 2, please.
Mr.
Mr. Nichols.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a request by the Friends of Faith Retirement Homes, Inc., Friendship Village, to vacate and terminate an existing sanitary sewer easement in the R-4 R-P Planned Residence District located at 600 Park Lane.
So you're making a motion.
Motion to receive, file, and proof of publication and notice of public hearing.
All right. Thank you.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Is there anybody that would like to speak about the Friends of Faith Retirement Home? Good evening.
I'm Mike Young. I live at 215 Pauline Place in Waterloo, and I'm the attorney for Friendship Village, and I'm happy to answer any questions about this, but I would also like to thank the city staff, the city council. We met with some members of the city council and the mayor, I believe, in 2017, and also staff members when the redevelopment of Friendship Village started. And it was infill development, which I think is good overall and good for the city and good for the neighborhood, but it made it much more complex because people were living there while the construction was going on. And so we met with the city, and the cooperation and the communication has been fantastic. So we thank you. I'm thinking Mr. Hudding, his department, Mr. Knutson, Mr. Anderson, Waterloo Fire Rescue, from the city council. Thank you to all of you. It's been a long project, but it's a great facility, and there'll be some more things to come too. But yeah, thanks to all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Any other comments? If we have questions, we'll do that in just a second. So thank you. All right, going a second time?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to close hearing and receive and file oral and written comments and recommendation of approval of the Planning, Programming, and Zoning Commission.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's roll call.
On a second. To close the hearing, it's a voice vote.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. We are, hearing is closed.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, and consider and pass for the first time an ordinance approving a request by Friends of Faith Retirement Homes, Inc., Friendship Village, to vacate and terminate a sanitary sewer easement in the R-4, R-P Planned Residence District located at 600 Park Lane.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Council, questions? Okay, hearing none. We're going to do a vote. Good. All right, motion carries.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
We have a motion to suspend the rules. We need to do a vote, please. Roll call. Okay. All right. We are good. That carries.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to consider and pass for the second and third times and adopt said ordinance.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please. Okay. Mr. Nichols?
Point of order, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, Mr. Obido.
We are not getting the display of the votes on the screen. I'd ask that before we move on, that make sure that the votes are displayed so we know who is voting for what.
Okay. Oh, well, anyway, yeah. Okay, yep, I will announce it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That motion carried 6-0. Sorry, let me start there and then we can keep going. Okay.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah.
I'd like to adopt a resolution approving a termination of sewer easement agreement.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please. All right, that motion carried 6-0. Number 3.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, proof of publication of notice of public hearing, and that's for a request by Weatherfield Realty Group LLC for a site plan amendment to construct a new 230 square foot telecommunications facility at the M-2P Planned Industrial District located north of 2365 Northeast Drive.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any public comments on this telecom? Going a second time?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and receive and file oral and written comments and recommendation of approval of the Planning, Programming, and Zoning Commission.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Well,
We didn't get an aye on, sorry, opening the public hearing, we didn't get an aye.
oh, I am sorry.
We didn't get an all in
No,
favor.
that's my fault. Just, okay, so we need to back up
Sorry.
before we close the hearing, and trying to think about too many things at the moment. All right, so to open the public hearing, all in favor of opening the public hearing? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Then could you just reread your motion to close the hearing,
Yes,
please?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I'd like to make a motion to close hearing and receive and file oral and written comments and recommendation of approval of the Planning, Programming, and Zoning Commission.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, consider, and pass for the first time an ordinance amending ordinance number 5079 as amended, City of Waterloo zoning ordinance by amending the official zoning map referred to in section 10-4-4, approving a site plan amendment for the M-2P Planned Industrial District to allow for the construction of a new 230 square foot telecommunications facility located north of 2365 Northeast Drive.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please. I'm sorry, council questions. That's what I should have asked.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Bozen.
I have a question, and not as much on the zoning, but on the motions to suspend the rules. So with Ward 4 absent, that's a no vote.
Okay.
So
yes.
if anyone votes no, how many council people do we need to suspend the rules?
All 6.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question. Okay, so you should have voted. I hadn't. All right, that motion carries 6-0.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to suspend the rules. Please vote. That wasn't the suspension, was it? It says first time.
To suspend the rules.
It said first time on when I sorry.
So now suspend the rules.
There.
I have suspend.
Oh, okay. And we all voted?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. It just looked different on mine, so that's my fault. All right, so that motion carries 6-0 as well.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to consider and pass for the second and third times and adopt the ordinance.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please roll call.
I think it takes a second for it to catch up.
Good. All right, motion carries. Number 4, please.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing, and that's for the sale and conveyance of city-owned property to Weatherfield Realty Group LLC in the amount of $1 with a development agreement and a minimal assessment agreement of $100,000 located north of 2365 Northeast Drive for the construction of a new 230 square footage telecommunication facility.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, any public comments? Going a second time?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and receive and file oral and written comments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to make a motion to approve a resolution for the sale and conveyance of city-owned property located north of 2365 Northeast Drive to Weatherfield Realty Group LLC in the amount of $1 and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Council questions?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Bozen?
I have some questions on the development agreement for Mr. Anderson.
Okay.
First of all, I'm not in favor of giving this land away for $1. I don't think we're creating economic development. I don't think it doesn't create jobs. It's a 230 square foot modular building put on a third of an acre. How much taxes would that generate, Mr. Anderson?
Joel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director. The minimum assessed value on the development agreement is $100,000, so it's going to be about $2,500 per year, I think, after business discounts and all that the state gives.
So that's at the 54% for the business discount.
I think that's at the current one. So it'll be changing over the years with the state code changing.
But what I'm asking is the first 150,000 of assessed value is at 54%, not 90%.
Okay. I just know that we have a similar project we did that is paying $2,500, so this one will probably be different with the new state code provision going in.
So it would be less than that.
Correct.
And then we get 46% of that. And that money.
Well, we get about 98% of that since it's in the TIP district.
Okay, so none of it's going into the general fund.
That's correct.
Okay. And on that $100,000 assessed value, they only have to maintain that December 31st of 2028. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's in Exhibit B.
Yes.
So that's not going to be ongoing at 100,000. In December of 2028, they can come back and appeal their assessed value, and then it's going to be based on a 230 square foot modular building.
That is correct.
And can they subdivide that property? They're only using the front half of that third of an acre?
They could. They'd have to come back through the city process for a subdivision.
Okay. And will they be required to mow that entire lot, or just their fence, take care around their fenced area?
No, they'd be required to maintain all their property.
Okay. And that's all I have, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Any further questions, council? All right, roll call, please. Okay, motion carries. We're missing somebody. In an event of a tie,
It fails.
it fails.
Because
Okay.
Because of the missing seat, yes.
Okay. So the motion fails. Mr. Anderson, can you, I mean, the votes happened, but do we go back to the drawing board now with the company? Sorry. Okay, all right, thank you. Mr. Obadal, have a seat, please. Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor, can we see who
No,
voted for it? We just got a result of 3-3. Can we see who, we're in a public
Mr.
hearing
Obadal,
here.
please sit down.
I'm
We're
asking-
not in a public hearing anymore. That was done.
We're in a public meeting. This is a city
Mr.
council
Obadal.
meeting. This body, these citizens have the right to know
That's-
who voted up and
Okay,
who voted
Mr.
down.
Obadal,
May we
please
have,
sit
may
down.
we have that announced, please? That's my request. It's a
Mr.
point of
Obadal,
order.
Please, you don't get to make a point of
Yes, I do.
order. Please sit down.
Yes,
Thank
I
you,
do.
sir.
Can we have
Mr. Obadal.
our elected
I don't know if we
representatives
can because you're not sitting
identify
down like I've
themselves?
asked.
Can you identify, can we,
Obadal,
I am asking as a
and I've
citizen
asked
to have
you
my city council
to sit
identify
down.
how they voted for. How fundamental can we get on this? I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
I'm going to make a motion that we recess, please.
Second.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, you
we
have
are,
identified
all
myself
in
as the most
favor of
divisive
recess?
person in this city
Aye.
just because I oppose what you're doing.
Make a motion that we return from recess, please.
Second.
We have a motion to return from recess and a second by Mr. Childs. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, so apologize for that. We are working with some new technology. We understand that. I had a conversation with our deputy clerk. I am going to slow down a little bit so names can come up. We do have some things on here tonight that may require individual votes that might not be yes. So during that time, if somebody votes no, council, will you just let me know so that way I can see it, but if I forget, I will. I'm certainly, we're not out to deny anybody knowing what their city council person voted. In fact, this is pretty transparent, and when our information comes out to the citizens afterwards, and you want to go back and look through, we will certainly do that. But so we will, again, we are working through some of our information. So I'm just going to ask our counselors on that last motion if you voted yes or no, and that's all. So it's not a roll call, it's not anything else. I will start. I voted yes. Mr. Bozen?
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
Yes.
Okay, and we have that. We've done it, and we're going to continue to move on to number 5, please.
Mr.
Thank
Mayor
you.
Pro Tem.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing, and that is for a request by Jason Fowler to rezone approximately 0.28 acres from C-1 Commercial District to C-1 C-Z Conditional Commercial District to construct a vehicle storage facility located east of 709 Dearborn Avenue.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right, we have the public hearing now to rezone some land. Is there any public comment on this? Going a second time?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and receive and file oral and written comments and recommendation of approval of the Planning, Programming, and Zoning Commission.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, consider, and pass for the first time an ordinance amending ordinance number 5079 as amended, City of Waterloo zoning ordinance by amending the official zoning map referred to in section 10-4-4, approving a request by Jason Fowler to rezone approximately 0.28 acres from C-1 Commercial District to C-1 C-Z Conditional Commercial District to construct a vehicle storage facility located east of 709 Dearborn Avenue.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Council questions?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Bozen?
I just had a question on, I listened to this presentation in planning and zoning, and I just want to make sure that there's going to be ample room on that lot, because when his original diagram with the vehicles on the lot, I don't see any water retention. So I want to make sure that that's factored into how many cars or vehicles he can put in there. And I believe, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, he doesn't have to have a hard surface. Is that, who would answer that question?
Mr. Anderson? Room for parking, water retention, and paved surface. I think those are what Mr. Bozen was asking about.
Joel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director. So yeah, by city code, he will be required to have all the requirements of those three functions. And I believe there was a portion on there for the hard surface vehicular use area for the entrance. The storage area could be gravel, but he would have to have stormwater detention built in as part of the site.
Okay. Yeah, so just the entrance in, he has to pave.
Correct.
And then everything else can be.
Because there's no building planned at this time.
Right, and there's no parking because there's no
direct customers other than the cars
coming in and going. Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other questions on this? All right, our vote is on the screen. Okay, motion carries 6-0.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to suspend the rules. Roll call, please. Okay, the motion carries 6-0.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to consider and pass for the second and third times and adopt the ordinance.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please. All right, that motion carries 6-0. All right, on to resolutions. Can somebody take 1, 2, and 3, please?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Nichols?
I'd like to adopt a resolution approving a request by Friends of Faith Retirement Homes, Inc., Friendship Village, to dedicate a 50-foot sanitary sewer easement and approve the sanitary sewer easement and encroachment agreement and authorizing mayor and city clerk to execute said document. Number 2, a resolution approving an early access agreement with Weatherfield Realty Group LLC to allow development activities, including construction of a foundation on a prior portion of lot number 2, Northeast Industrial Park number 1, and authorizing mayor and city clerk to execute said document. And number 3, a resolution approving a variance to the requirements of the subdivision ordinance in section 11-3-2 preliminary plats and section 11-3-3 final plats related to the approval of the minor plat of survey of parcel A location north of 2365 Northeast Drive.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any public comments on resolution 1, 2, or 3? Going a second time. And council, let me just remind you at any time, if you are voting no on any of these particular resolutions.
I have a question too.
Oh, yep. If you have any question, or if you're going to vote no on any of these resolutions, if you would please let our deputy clerk know for any of those. Sorry, gotten an old habit of taking multiple ones. So Mr. Anderson.
Bill Anderson, Community Planning Development Director. So we can probably, for now, table or just remove 2, 3, and 4 as you get up to that, as they were all related to the item that was denied.
2, 3, and 4. Okay. Right, you said 2, 3, and 4. Sorry. Okay, Mr. Boson.
I would like to make a motion to, is it table or postpone? Which would you rather see? Because 2 and 3 are on the right here. So we need to
table them.
I'd like to move to table resolution number 2 and 3.
Second.
Okay, so we're making an amendment. How to table, right? How about this? Can we vote on number 1? Can we just vote on number 1 since we've opened that and vote on that and then come back and do 2, 3, and 4 and table all of those? Okay. Yeah, I'll give you a second. Sorry to.
Yep.
I apologize.
Let me go back to 1. Okay,
Yes.
1.
Yeah, we're going to vote on just resolution number 1.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, let me start voting.
Okay, so what you see in front of you, council, is to approve resolution number 1. Please vote for that.
Did the motion come through?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
we vote.
Did it come through?
It did, yeah. I
Okay.
think we all voted.
All right,
Okay. Did it work on your end?
I think so.
Never came up.
Okay, so
You want to,
can I just want to make sure we're all.
done. Let me do it again.
Okay, let's try that again. Okay, there we go. Everybody has voted. That motion carries 6-0. Okay. Numbers 2, 3, and 4,
Mayor Pro
please.
Tem,
Yes,
move
Mr.
to
Boson.
Table items 2, 3, and 4 to a later date.
Do we need to read them out?
I can read them if you want.
Yes.
Okay, number 2 is a resolution approving an early access agreement with Weatherfield, sorry.
Read them and then table.
Okay, okay,
That's
I'd like
okay.
to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving an early access agreement with Weatherfield Realty Group LLC to allow development activities, including the construction of a foundation on a portion of Lot 2 Northeast Industrial Park Number 1, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said document. Number 3 is a resolution approving a variance to the requirements of subdivision ordinance in section 11-3-2 preliminary plats and section 11-3-3 final plats relating to the approval of the minor plat of survey of partial A location north of 2365 Northeast Drive. And number 4 is a request to the city of Waterloo for the preliminary and final plat and minor plat and survey of partial A located north of 2365 Northeast Drive.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Now we can take our
Now,
motion. Mr.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Boza.
I'd like to table those 3 items to a later date.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table. Should see that on your screen. And that passes 6-0. Resolution number 5, please.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a resolution amending to a development agreement and minimal assessment agreement of 3F1 Waterloo LLC, originally approved on April 6, 2020, extending tax rebates to 8 years at 50% and 2 years at 35% for a total of 10 years of rebates, and amend the minimal assessment date to December 31st, 2032 for the project located at 2130 Newell Street, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said document.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on resolution number 5? Going a second time. Council? All right, roll call, please.
I'm voting yes.
Okay, Mr. Bozen's voting yes. He's having some technological issues at the moment.
Could be me.
You voted yes.
Thank you. How easy it is. You have good help.
Yep. All right. Number 6, please.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I'd like to adopt a resolution approving an agreement for purchase rights with Maria and Jerry Luster of Waterloo, Iowa, for the city-owned property located west of 1919 and 1921 Lafayette Street, and authorizing mayor and city clerk to execute said document.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for number 6. Any public comments? Okay.
Hang on.
Got a couple of people coming up. Oh, one person.
Forrest Dillaboo, 1725 Huntington Road. I would like to know the purpose of this property that's being sold on Lafayette Street, the price, the size. It tells me nothing other than where it is. I would like to have the facts and figures on it, please.
Mr. Anderson?
Joel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director. The 2 parcels that are in the agreement are 2 parcels directly north of Lafayette Park. They were acquired through 67A action to take down some blighted homes. I apologize, I do not have the exact sizes of the parcels with me, but I can definitely get those to you with the parcel numbers. The applicants are buying or have bought the house to the east of that. They are fixing that up, and they would like to build a new house on this. As they're newer to the community, we'd like to see how they do with their current project and fixing that home up to see if they move ahead to the development agreement with this, but this gives them the option of the land.
Okay, thank you.
So is there a development agreement?
There would be a development agreement in the future, assuming that they perform well on their rehab.
It looks to me like we're giving them the property without a development agreement.
The normal infill property project or policy for an infill project would be that they would buy the lots for $5,000. They would be required to build a new home on it. Then they'd be awarded the $5,000 back plus an additional $5,000 for infill under our policy.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comments? Council? Roll call, please. That motion carries 6-0. Number 7, please.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
I'd like to adopt a resolution approving construction plans for the private sanitary sewer extension serving Union at North Crossing as submitted by Crockett Engineering Consultants LLC of Columbia, Missouri, a sewage treatment agreement DNR Form 29, November 00 with the Department of Natural Resources. Final acceptance of construction plans subject to the review and acceptance by the Department of Natural Resources, and authorizing the mayor to execute said documents.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second on number 7. Any public comment? Going a second time? Council? All right, roll call, please. That motion carries 6-0. Number 8.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the following resolution for supplemental agreement number 4 with Stanley Consultants, Inc. of Des Moines, Iowa, in the amount of $6,891 in conjunction with fiscal year 2022. Oh, just kidding. The fiscal year 2022 11th Street and Park Avenue Bridge replacements, contract number 1013, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said document.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any public comment on the bridge? Going a second time. Council? All right, roll. Oh, sorry, Mr. Childs, go ahead.
Just want to know if we're still on schedule with this.
Mr. Knutson, are we still on schedule? Saw them digging the other day, so.
Jamie Knutson, city engineer. Currently, right now, we are still on schedule. Again, as everybody probably sees, the river's up a little bit. As long as it doesn't come up much more, we'll still be on schedule. So right now, everything's looking good.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Knutson. Anybody else? All right, roll call, please. All right, that carries 6-0. Number 9.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, Mr. Nichols.
I'd like to adopt a resolution approving support for the submission of intended use plan and updating the facility plan to the Iowa Department of Natural Resources for the Cattle Congress Lift Station Force Main project.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for resolution number 9. Any public comments? Going a second time. Council, questions? All right, roll call, please. That motion carries 6-0. Number 10, please.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Bozen.
I'd like to adopt a resolution approving the lease agreement and memorandum of services with UNI for the use of portable staging at Young Arena, Cedar Valley Sportsplex, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said document.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any public comment on a lease agreement? Going a second time. Council? All right, hearing none. Roll call, please. That motion carries 6-0. Number 11, please.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
I'd like to adopt a resolution approving a snapshot audit agreement with Spyglass Group LLC for an analysis of telecommunication service accounts to seek cost recovery, service elimination, and cost reduction recommendations, and authorizing the mayor to execute said document.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any public comment on number 11? Going a second time. Council?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Bozen.
My concern is the fees. And I'd like if Bridget could give us an overview of exactly what this is and the fee structure.
Bridget Wood, Finance Manager. So the audit basically is an analysis, and that's done for free of charge. If we were to take any of their recommendations on any cost savings, service elimination, or cost recovery, that's when the fees would come into play. And that's if we implement anything within 12 months after the analysis has been done.
Okay. Well, my concern is the one is 50% of any cost recovery.
Right.
And then it's 12 times any service elimination savings.
Yep.
And then it's 12 times any cost reduction savings.
Yep, so it's just a it's a one-time fee. Basically, it's whatever they can save us in that first year, we're gonna pay to them, except for the cost recovery part. That's money we've already paid. So it would be money that they'd be getting back for us. They would take half of that and we would get the remaining half.
It just seems like a lot of fees for, I understand what the premise of this, but whether the recovery fees are outrageous, unless that's industry standards.
As far as I know, I haven't looked into what industry standards are for those.
Have we looked at anybody else besides this Spyglass?
They're a company that first they'd actually been in contact with Michelle and Chris previously. Who did you talk to? They had discussions with a local company that does the same thing, but they wanted to sign a 3-year contract.
But we only pay if if we make any changes in the first 12 months?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council questions? Okay, roll call, please.
I already voted for that once.
Oh.
Back up. Vote again?
Yeah, vote again.
All right.
Yeah, it didn't pop up the first time. Okay, so that carries 6-0. Number 12, please.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution to approve the use of fireworks on July 3rd, 2023, between the hours of 12 o'clock, 12 noon, and 11 o'clock, 11 p.m. in accordance with Section 5-2-13, in parentheses B, in parentheses 1 of the Waterloo City Code.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for use of fireworks on July 3rd. Any public comments? Going a second time? Council?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Boson.
My only concern on this, and I don't have a problem on July 3rd, this is recommended by our police chief, because most people don't work on July 4th. My concern is the Friday night, Saturday, and the Sunday prior to that Monday, and whether we're going to have adequate resources to enforce our ordinances, because we're banning them on that weekend. And I think they're going to be used all weekend long. I mean, I feel that's going to happen. So I would just, Chief Leibold, will we have adequate enforcement, hopefully?
Joe Leibel, Water Police Chief. I would say it'd be extremely speculative to say we'd be able to enforce that. I would agree with you. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, probably Friday, Saturday more so, will be the two biggest nights outside of hopefully July 3rd. By adding July 3rd, you do give people the opportunity to have their neighborhood celebrations outside the weekends. So hopefully that'll take some of it off. But yes, I do anticipate Friday and Saturday evenings being extremely busy for us. We will staff accordingly, but it's all over town and we can't be everywhere.
Would reserve officers be able to be dedicated to fireworks complaints?
We always ask them to help, and if they volunteer to come in, yes, that's what they do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Greider.
I will be a no on this, and I respect and understand the police department's feelings on this, but my constituents have been clear. One day of fireworks is enough. That is what we are legally required by the state, who, in my opinion, shouldn't have legalized this without talking to cities beforehand, but they did. So I will be a no vote on this resolution.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Greider. Any further council discussion? All right, roll call, please. Mr. Childs.
I've voted. I'm hitting it.
That's okay. All right, so it carries 5-1 with Mr. Greider voting no. Number 13, please.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes,
Yeah,
Mr.
Mayor Pro
Nichols.
Tem. I'd like to adopt a resolution approving a joint public improvement agreement with the municipal telecommunications utility of the city of Waterloo for the purpose of defining the respective rights and obligations for joint public improvement projects and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute said document.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second for a joint public improvement agreements. Any questions? Going a second time, council. Roll call vote, please. And that vote carries 6-0. Ordinance number 1, please.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, consider, and pass for the first time an ordinance amending the City of Waterloo Code of Ordinances by repealing Chapter 2, Sidewalk Construction, Inspection, and Repair, and Article A, Inspection and Repair of Title 7, Public Works and Property, and enacting in lieu thereof a new Chapter 2, Sidewalk Construction, Inspections, and Repair, and Article A, Inspection and Repair of Title 7, Public Ways and Property.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for sidewalk repairs. Any comments or questions from our citizens? Second time? Okay. Did we voice vote that? No, okay.
Nope.
Sorry, we have to, that's okay. Man, I am sorry. Yep, okay, roll call. I was in the public hearing phase of mind. That passes 6-0. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to suspend the rules. Roll call, please. That motion carries 6-0.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, consider, and pass for the second and third times and adopt said ordinance.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please. That motion carries 6-0. All right, number 2.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, consider, and pass for the first time an ordinance amending the City of Waterloo Code of Ordinances by enacting a new Chapter 12, Youth Mental Health Protection of Title III Business and License Regulation.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please note, we've had a lot of phone calls about this, and so I do ask when you come to the podium, please be respectful during this conversation as there are differing viewpoints. So, who wants to come up first? 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record.
John Henry, 2121 West 7th Street. I got some phone calls, text mails, emails, anything starting last week regarding this ordinance. So I called a friend, Timmy Brown Powers, and asked her what she thought of this. It took her 48 hours to get back to me because she had to do investigation herself into this because she was unsure of what was going on. When she called me, she told me that she may call Mr. Greider and ask him to hold off, that she felt that there needed to be a lot more education in the city for what this ordinance includes, because that is woefully missing from conversation. Unless, I've seen people send things in the ordinance and what it says and what it's not, but without getting into the detail of it all, I would say that what you're asking, you've stepped on the rights of parents, and you cannot do that. This is still America. Parents have rights. We may not agree with everything that is said, but it is a parent's right to choose care for their child in whatever manner they see fit. And when that does not happen, we're looking at communism, socialism, and everything else. And yet you smile at me when I say that, because you know. And I'll be respectful to all of you, but I don't see where the city council has any business inferring into the rights of parents. We have lots of crime in this town, lots of it. Down my street, 8 days ago, at least 2 clips went off. We got the usual, 22, 2300 West 7th Street. But 2:15 in the morning. I'd like to say this is not normal for us. It's not normal really anywhere in Waterloo, but the crime in this town is deplorable. And I don't hear one conversation, hardly ever, I can't say at all, about anything that you have to say about the crime in this town. It is black on black, it is black on white, it's white on purple. I don't care, it's crime. And it needs to stop. And that's what you should be worried about with the children. Because all I will say, and I've been waiting to say this for a whole week, teacher, leave those kids alone.
Thank you. Hold on just 1 sec, please, sir. Sorry. Okay, name and address for the record, please.
I'm Ted Lederman, 1758 Pinehurst Lane, Waterloo, Iowa. First of all, Mayor Pro Tem, I want to thank you for your patience. I want to talk and address Mr. Greider's proposed ordinance prohibiting conversion therapy. So I was a medical practitioner for about 4 decades in Waterloo. I grew up in Waterloo, went to Kingsley, West Junior West, and went to the University of Iowa. So what is conversion therapy? Conversion therapy is when you have someone born as a male,
Can you make sure you're speaking into
born
the
as a
mic?
male or
Thank you.
female, and they want to change their gender assignment. So it would be me, born as a male, want to change my gender assignment to become a female. So conversion therapy is trying to prevent that from occurring. So when Mr. Griner's proposal came up, I wanted to look at how much conversion therapy is going on. He's targeting health professionals. So in all of my years in practice in Waterloo, I've never known or heard of anyone in Waterloo or the state of Iowa practicing conversion therapy. Now, as a medical practitioner, we get from the state of Iowa the Iowa Board monthly reports. So I read them monthly. So it tells us change in regulation in medical care in Iowa, and then it states disciplinary action against physicians. And so I read them. Well, there's disciplinary action for sexual abuse, for failure to diagnose cancer, for failure to treat pneumonia, for failure to alleviate pain, or for overprescribing narcotics. So in all my time reading these, and I read them almost every month, I've never once seen where any individual came to the medical board naming a doctor performing conversion therapy that caused any problem to that person. Now, it's interesting. I searched the literature. I looked at Google. How many cases of medical conversion therapy are performed by doctors in Iowa? There's no information. So I looked at the Des Moines Register, August 12th, 2016. And Dr. Katie Imberick was interviewed. She's the head of the LBGQT clinic at the University of Iowa and a professor of medicine. So she was interviewed about conversion therapy. And in the article, she stated, quotation, this is from the article,
Be about 15 more seconds.
that she,
Keep going, sir.
did I talk or?
I'm going to give you about 15 more seconds just to finish your thought.
Okay, so she states that she does not believe that let me quote it, that any doctors or psychologists are performing conversion therapy in the state of Iowa.
Okay.
So what we have.
Thank you.
Thank
Yep,
you.
Thank you.
My name is Michael Bayer, 129 Prospect Circle, Waterloo. I'd like a point of clarification before I begin. I believe according to the approved agenda and the rules posted in that agenda that I have 5 minutes.
If you register beforehand, yes, you
I
would have.
did. I called the clerk's office and registered.
So, to clarify, if the council has changed their
Sorry.
Our agendas currently do not have the accurate public comment rules on them since we've gone through this changeover. The council passed an ordinance recently that changed the rules of public speaking so that there is no more pre-registration. Members of the public just come to the council chambers and everybody gets 3 minutes to speak. So it is listed on your agenda as inaccurate. At our next meeting in March, it will be reflected accurately. So I apologize for that confusion.
The agenda was posted for public consumption and to read the rules. Also on the door into the meeting room here, it says 5 minutes. So I would ask that you reset the timer to 5 minutes.
I'm going to give you 3 minutes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, I disagree with that.
Okay.
But I will proceed. I wholeheartedly object to this proposed ordinance on the basis of the content and the process of trying to ram it down the citizens of Waterloo's throat in one meeting. This is a controversial subject, and there needs to be adequate time for discussion and public input. The first point on the content is this ordinance is unconstitutional. And the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in a case called Otto versus City of Boca Raton that this was unconstitutional infringement of the free speech right. The bottom line in the ruling says we understand and appreciate that therapy is highly controversial, but the First Amendment has no carve out for controversial speech. We hold that the challenge ordinances violate the First Amendment because they are content-based regulations of speech. They cannot survive strict scrutiny. Those regulations, those ordinances were very, very similar to what is being proposed here. Second point, this proposal fails to consider the difference between individuals who involuntarily are forced into a counseling situation and those who are seeking counseling. It prevents those who would seek counseling from receiving counseling. Third, the city is the wrong level of government to enact restrictions on health professionals. The state issues the credentials, the licenses for medical and mental health professionals, and they set the rules for those professionals. The city government is not the place for that. Fourth, this proposal does not protect youth. If you were interested in protecting the mental health of youth, you would then consider banning such things as hormone therapy, surgery to remove body parts, drugs that prevent the onset of puberty, and that prevent natural characteristics of the biological sex. As a result of these treatments, we are seeing more and more people have regrets about their transitions with the inability to bear children and other regrets. There is already a shortage, number 5, of mental health professionals in the Cedar Valley. This will exacerbate that problem. This ordinance would prevent parents from choosing what they believe is best for their child. I urge all the council members to vote no on this proposed ordinance.
Okay, thank you. If there's any additional comments that you have, you can certainly email those to us as well. Hi, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Cheryl Aguilar, and I live at 4017 Cadillac, Waterloo. I read the bill, the Youth Health Protection Ordinance, and we should not pass this ordinance for this community. The basic points that we should protect our children. I have 4 children. I'm assuming many of you have children, and we all have viewpoints about how we raise our children. And we need to protect parental rights, and that means me protecting your rights as a U.S. citizen, and you're going to protect mine. So we should provide open-minded assistance to children going through confusing stages of adolescence. Everyone loses with this. I don't understand. I'm fascinated with the verbiage of the ordinance because it's written in somewhat of a positive way, but parents lose, children lose, our community loses mental health professionals, as was just stated by the gentleman before me. I know that we all want what is best for our children, and this is a very difficult topic. He stated to be cordial, and I think that everyone is aiming for that as we want to be a community. So a community doesn't take a portion of the community and say, we don't care about your viewpoint. We're only going to allow our viewpoint. And essentially that's what this bill does. I guess I would look at the problems that would ensue from this, and I would ask you, how much investigation have you done to see what problems will this cause for the professionals who are trying to help counsel, and the options that are gone for children who want counseling. Having said all this, the basic point that this is not constitutional, it should bring us all together, regardless of what we view as a solution for someone with gender confusion or whatever word you want to use for it. I've never done something like this, so I would really hope that you as a city and my leaders would not intend to set up your own religion and then demand that I adhere to it, just like none of us will do to the other. We're a community. and I have neighbors of different faiths, and I love my neighbors. So don't exclude me if I have a different view from you, and I will do the same. Don't violate my freedom of speech and religion. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Sam Blatt, 107 Lafayette Street. I just wanted to speak up again because this has been brought up before in a work session last city council meeting and then during the city council meeting as well. I wanted to remind the city council members and people in Waterloo that we have the worst score in all the other cities ranked in Iowa that were scored by the Human Rights Campaign on the Municipal Equality Index, and that's pretty concerning. And as someone who is also pretty concerned about this ordinance, I really do need you guys to support it. There's so many bills in the State House right now that are anti-LGBTQ. And as somebody who's a part of the LGBTQ community, we're under attack. And, obviously some people have disagreeing viewpoints than me tonight as well. But why are people fighting so hard against it? And, this is why it matters at a local level, because it's being fought at the state level as well. So I'll keep it short and sweet and say, please support this ban because children do need to be protected. Adults need to be protected. Everybody in this community needs to feel safe, including people in the LGBTQ community who are under attack. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Kathy Mahoney, 1400 Denver Street. So I had to look up what conversion therapy actually is. And so the definition here is so-called conversion therapy is a range of dangerous and discredited practices that falsely claim to change a person's sexual orientation, their gender identity, or expression. Such practices have been rejected by every mainstream medical and mental health organization for decades. But due to continuing discrimination and societal bias against LGBTQ people, some practitioners continue to conduct conversion therapy. Minors are especially vulnerable, and conversion therapy can lead to depression, anxiety, drug use, homelessness, and suicide. So my understanding of this is, as a heterosexual, if somebody thought that was wrong, they could have mental health, psychotherapy to convince me that I should, and it would be better for me to be attracted to someone of the same gender. We know that's not going to happen. Heterosexuals know, we know in our hearts, we will never be attracted to someone of the same sex. The problem is we are the majority. And so when we see a kid who is, I don't think it's gender confusion, there might be some time to figure it out. But when they understand themselves as attracted to someone of the same gender, and then their parents say, no, well, we don't really like this, so we are going to give you some treatment so you understand. In the past, homosexuality has been illegal. Homosexuals have been subjected to electric shock therapy, to chemical castration, and also what something called aversion therapy. So you were, I don't know, whenever you had an impulse to like someone who was the same gender as you, to get an electric shock or something, so you wouldn't. We cannot change how someone feels about their sexuality, and saying it's okay in our community to have discredited therapeutic methods is wrong. Now, I think the other gentleman was saying these don't happen anyway, so what's the point of having this legislation? And I think the point is to say, we're not going to allow people to... Thanks, that's it.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Hi, my name is Mitchell Denner Hartog. I live at 1013 Western Avenue. I'm also in support of the ordinance, mostly because we have statistics that do show that when people are confused and have issues that this stuff doesn't work. We know it doesn't work. I've been here before in support of it in the past as well. We do also have real life instances in the past of people who, because of their debate and confusion instead of accepting who they are as a person, have caused horrible tragedies in the LGBTQ plus community as well. And I have friends who, if it had happened to them, probably would not be here today. This does directly affect people's lives. It directly affects people who need the support and love of the community, and it definitely needs to pass, just because we do know that state legislation is coming against the LGBTQ plus community, and we do know for a fact that they won't stop until they can do as much damage as possible. And to do what we can as a city to protect not only the citizens we currently have, but maybe future citizens as well who would love to stay here and build a community and build more supporting businesses and stuff like that as well. This is not only just talking about children, but future citizens who may start a business in our community, or future citizens who may become homeowners or parents themselves and have to debate with this issue. But the idea of banning it is important because we do know that there are certain things that in the world we do not let children do. We do not let children work in coal mines until they are of the appropriate age. We do not let them work on dangerous machinery because we know it's harmful to them. Do we say that's a parent's choice? No, because we know that is very dangerous. We know it's very hurtful. So, again, I'm just here to support the ordinance, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hi.
my name's Emily Suttergren. I also live at 1013 Western Avenue. I would just like to encourage you guys to vote in support of this ordinance. Let's keep church out of state, and let's keep all children, regardless of religion, safe in Iowa. That's all.
Thank you.
Hi, Jacob Taglow, 566 Sheridan Road, Waterloo. Good evening. I've been a Blackhawk County native. I am a Blackhawk County native and a resident of Waterloo since 2020. I'm not a parent, but I hope to be someday, and it's ordinances like this that are going to make me think twice about raising a family here. I oppose this ordinance because it's being rammed through outside of the normal rules. It paints conversion therapy with a broad brush. And more importantly, I think this law states what you are for, and that's doing something that's irreputable, irreversible to children. So the effort to ram this outside of the normal rules stifles public discussion and democracy on a term that's particularly confusing, conversion therapy. I talk to my conservative friends and they hear conversion therapy and they think that you're banning sex changes on children. Boy, they think quite differently when they find out what's really being done. I hear that, how do we know what our constituents really think on this confusing term without going through the 3 times and really understanding what the public wants? I read a recent Courier article about the ward vacancy. At least one of you talked about democracy and how you support democracy. I find what's being done here to be hypocritical in that regard. This ordinance paints conversion therapy with a broad brush. I think that there's this narrative that conversion therapy is we strap a child down to a chair, we put on some electric probes, And when they respond outside of societal norms to some stimuli, we give them a jolt or something brutal of that nature. There's not a person in this room that would support something like that. But there are tamer things that a therapist might do to help guide a child back to what is typical. Maybe a hiatus of social media or a regimen of esteem-building things. But this ordinance, if that's done in the name of bringing the child back to what's typical, little adjustments, it's not going to allow that because you're painting with a broad brush. I've known a few parents that have had children that have come out as gay, one that's probably going through gender reassignment. One thing's common. They love their kids and they would never wish this for them. And I hope that's true of you, council, if you have kids, if you're planning to have kids. But what we're doing here is we're limiting the parents' ability. We're getting between them and their doctor and their children.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Thank
I
you.
just wanted to clear up that this is the normal process. We had a work session 2 weeks ago, and we are bringing this about. We're not circumventing anything that we've done prior. Thank you. Mr. Obodo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Todd Obodo, 124 Amity Drive. We had the studied testimony of a physician. I hadn't heard any other physicians speak, who took the time to not only share his personal experience and his professional experience as an active doctor, but also that he is continuing to read these medical review board journals and has researched them for this topic tonight. And he even did a search into our media and found a source from a medical professor at the University of Iowa that heads the LGBTQ medical center there, who says that this doesn't happen anywhere in Iowa. So we're putting together an ordinance to outlaw a practice that's not taking place. And beside the point is that this is the state's job to determine it. This is not the place for the city council to step in. What else should the city council ban? What other medical procedures should the city council decide just isn't good for Waterloo? You don't have the authority to do this. How are you going to enforce it? How's that going to go? This is much ado about nothing. It is an argument to be held at the state. And if you don't like how the state is composed, do something about it. This is not the business of Waterloo. We have enough trouble getting votes to take place and having our citizens informed about who is voting for what at this dais. We don't need to be doing things that is going to accomplish absolutely nothing. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council, Teresa Culpepper, 1119 Cottage Grove Avenue. I wasn't going to speak, but I feel I need to. I'm also chair of the Human Rights Commission. So I applaud your efforts for taking this on. I applaud you for having your meeting and hashing things out, discussing it, because while it's not currently occurring, there is nothing to prevent it from occurring. And as a medical professional, what I can tell you is the American Medical Association said that the assumption that someone's sexual orientation and gender identity can be changed, it's not based on any medical or scientific evidence. So having someone tell someone of youth that the feelings that they're having, the things they're expressing are not okay, leads to things like increased costs in healthcare, because these are children who commit suicide because they don't know how to feel on the inside. And there is an option other than to go through this type of therapy. It's called affirmative therapy, where you talk about how you're feeling and what it means, and you allow a child to progress through that. It's not just for children, it's for adults. So allowing them to make decisions for themselves, because crazy thing about children, and my son said it to me the other day, when I said something to him and he said, "Mom, you don't know what it's like to be a kid today." I don't. They've got social media, they've got pressures. There are 8 and 9-year-old kids committing suicide because they don't think that they're okay. I don't want to live in a city like that. I want to live in a city where we support our children through whatever it is that they are going through, and we're not forcing them one way or another. I would prefer to go with the positives of why they are the way they are and helping them manage that, because maybe they decide it's a feeling at this moment and it's something that's going to change later, or maybe this is who they are and as a parent, we don't see it. So this hits home for me because I have children who are LGBTQ. And at no point ever did I stop to say, I will make a decision for you. And I don't think anyone else has a right to. I respect everybody else's opinions. I grew up in 2 churches because, hey, that's my grandpa. That's what they do. But at the end of the day, we have to respect each other. And something that's not here that should be here is these kids we're talking about. Did anybody reach out and talk to them? Because I sure did. And I asked. And what they do want is to be protected, because not all the time do adults know what they need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nicole Gassman, 408 Western, Waterloo, Iowa. I thought with the proposal coming forward, I should do a little research into what this care has done in the lives of children who have already transitioned. One of them lives in California and is now a vocal detransitioner. Her name is Chloe Cole. She writes, I'm currently 17 years old and was medically transitioned from the age of 13 through 16 after I came out to my parents as transgender at 12 years old. I was consulted therapists and was diagnosed with dysphoria by a gender specialist. The healthcare workers are trained to strictly follow the affirmative care system, even for child patients, in part because of California's conversion therapy laws. Chloe went through with many medical procedures, including the removal of her breasts, only to find out at the age of 17, while considering her body in health class, that actually she was not a boy, like she thought from 12 to 17. At 17, she now writes, the worst part about my transition will be the long-term health effects that I didn't knowingly consent to at the time. I have developed urinary tract issues during my transition that seem to have gone worse since my detransition, and I'm getting blood clots in my urine and have the inability to fully empty my bladder. A 17-year-old girl should be able to empty her bladder. That's a problem my 92-year-old grandpa just developed. And she writes, because my reproductive system was still developing while I was on testosterone, the overall function of it is completely unknown. I will have irreversible changes and may face complications for the rest of my life. I was failed by modern medicine. The proposal before you today, to be affirmative and to support the youth, you can affirm a child into a situation that is detrimental to their health because they have not processed through all the issues they're facing. I agree with social media. The children of today are facing a great deal more than the children that I grew up to be. And she writes.
Thank you. Mrs. Gerber, did you have comments you wanted to make? Nope. Okay, anybody else?
Al Manning, 1020 Southdale Drive, and I agree with those who say we need to protect our kids. That's why I have concerns that we're going to allow a 3-year-old child who's a male to identify as a female and start to socially transition that child by referring to the child by the opposite sex pronoun, perhaps dressing that child as the opposite sex. And then at 9 years old, recommend puberty blockers for that child. And later, hormones therapy and at some point, surgery, body mutilation. And contrary to what some people will say, some of these treatments, transition treatments, are not reversible. There are stories that people, whether they transition and stay that way or they detransition, they suffer from psychological and medical effects sometimes for years, for the rest of their lives. We don't have enough data, really, long-term data, and that's why this ordinance is premature. There's been a huge increase in depression in adolescents, especially among those who consider themselves transgender. Yet our society is currently more accepting of transgender people than it ever has been in our history. So why this increase in depression and suicidal thoughts? Well, have you ever considered that maybe it isn't because they're not being affirmed in their lifestyle, because we see plenty of affirmation in counseling settings, elementary, secondary schools, colleges, everywhere that lifestyle is being affirmed. So maybe it's an internal struggle because they're not living their life in accordance with their biological gender. I think that's something that needs to be considered. Another issue is that there's been a huge increase in the number of teenage girls that are identifying as the opposite sex. And typically that's a domain of males, but now you're seeing an explosion in females, and the only thing that can account for that is social contagion. It's a peer thing. You'll see whole groups of friends that will all of a sudden say, hey, we think we're boys, and then start down that path. Only years later, like this example we just heard, they might decide, we really made a mistake there. And like I said, those things are irreversible in some cases. And again, the constitutionality has already been mentioned. The Supreme Court has said these kind of laws are unconstitutional. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jenna Garcia, and I live at 1906 West 7th Street in Waterloo. I wasn't planning on speaking, but after hearing some of the blatant misinformation up here, I feel like I need to clarify a couple things. One thing that I've noticed is that the people speaking against transgender children never mentioned knowing any transgender people in their life or speaking to them, whereas the people who have or who are for this ordinance do know trans people and are involved in the trans community in their real life, which makes me wonder as to where these people against the ordinance are getting their information from. One of the biggest anti-transgender documentaries that recently came out by Matt Walsh, What is a Woman, is riddled with misinformation. He has claimed that children as young as 13-year-old, millions of them every year in America are getting their breasts removed. And when he looked at the real information, he realized it was less than 100. So if somebody like him is giving blatantly false information, and these people are getting their information from those same people, what other falsehoods have they been told? They talk about how transgender children will deeply regret their surgical procedures, when in reality the regret rate is at 1%. And if you know anything about surgical procedures and regret rates, that's incredible. There have been life-saving surgeries that have more than 1%, as high as 10% of a regret rate. I have also noticed how there are people against children mutilating their genitals and being forcibly put on HRT or hormone replacement therapy. No toddler is being given hormone replacement therapy. People are getting angry at talking points that simply do not exist because they are so angry at the existence of transgender children. Intersex children have their genitals mutilated at birth and are forcibly given puberty blockers and hormonal replacement therapy. I don't hear any of those people speaking up on the mistreatment of intersex children. But the second a transgender child says, I think I'm a girl actually, suddenly, oh, protect the kids, we gotta look out for the kids. No. I have a transgender cousin, as well as many transgender friends in my life. And when they got their surgeries that they wanted and their hormonal therapy that they wanted, their lives improved tremendously. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Alberto Aguilar. I live in 4017 Cadillac, Waterloo. And I guess there's been a lot of talk on both sides, right? And wanted to make sure that I guess this is probably the second time I'm speaking in front of this body, and identify myself as a follower of Jesus Christ, first and foremost. And that in and of itself sets itself against a lot of people, because most fundamentally, the things that have done great for this country are the principles set forth in the Bible. I am immigrant, a first-generation immigrant Mexican that happens to live here in the Waterloo area. I'm really deeply distressed by the language that is being used in terms of trying to portray something that is blatantly evil against children, for which the words of Jesus Christ had a very, very strong warning, right? Woe to those who make the least of this trip or fall apart. It'll be better for him to be, have a rock attached to his neck and then be thrown into the bottom of the sea. And so we all will eventually kind of leave this world. And I wanted to leave you with this thought that even your positions, everything we have here is very temporal. And eventually we'll all be facing a God, the Creator, who will judge us according to the things that we've done and to the things that we have done to other people. This voting for this type of legislation is not just a violation of human rights, it's a violation against your Creator.
Thank you. Any further speakers?
My name is Casey Henry, 165 Montrose Road here in Waterloo. I've been a resident of Waterloo for my entire life. The one thing that I have noticed is Waterloo is very accepting of people with different beliefs of their own. I'm questioning exactly what this does. What does it reaffirm? I question also as well if we're going to ban conversion therapy. What types of services do we have to offer to children that do want to convert back to a heterosexual lifestyle from a homosexual lifestyle? Are those services provided to us anywhere? No, instead we're focusing on one aspect of it and one aspect alone. I think if we want to talk about, we want to destroy this rumor that people have about some people in Waterloo are not accepting of other people, is you have to start with the basis. You have to start with the children themselves. We say, yes, we care about our children. Then we need to preach acceptance of others.
Mr. Henry, sorry, can you make sure you're speaking into the mic, just so that way people...
Yes,
okay.
my apologies, yes.
That's okay, thank you.
So what I would like to do is have people look and speak about the acceptance of others with their own children. We have enough problems with children in Waterloo right now. Yes, I have children ranging in age from 12 years old to 22 years old. And we've had discussions before about what's safe in Waterloo, it's acceptable. What I used to be able to do when I was a kid growing up, you sure in the heck can't do now. My daughter today was telling me about a fight at Hoover today. And kid with a bloody nose, another kid with a split lip, and another kid with a bloody nose. You know what? Two girls fighting one another that way. This is a frequent occurrence at our schools. If we want to impact and positively impact our children and make people more acceptable to an alternative lifestyle, then we need to start by protecting our own children as it is. We have to educate our children as to what's available and what is out there for us. It's not the role of the city council to do that. This is something that happens in the home. This is a discussion that parents have with their children, and the city has absolutely no reason whatsoever that needs to be involved in whatever happens behind closed doors at my house, as long as it's not illegal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Forrest Dillevue, 1725 Huntington Road. I listened to a lot of talk. I think that I've got a couple things to offer that haven't been. Number one, when a child is born, it is not hard to tell what they are. If you pull back the covers or change the diaper, you all know if it's a boy or a girl. I've never seen one that had homosexual written across the belly button. And if these kids, you're talking children, little children. I don't know what ages. Nobody's put an age to it. So these young folks, someone has talked to them about homosexuality and having them think that they are homosexual or pointing out that they are. But they're kids, little kids. You don't let them drive your car till they're 21 or 18. You don't let them make decisions. You're talking life-changing situations. Everybody's been through them, but you're wanting to take away the parents' rights. At the introduction, when you had the work session, it was mentioned, parents and guardians are telling their children. What's their job? That's their job. The good Lord give us that job, and he gave us our children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. I've got great-grandchildren, and if I catch someone trying to bend their mind to make them homosexual, I will probably spend the rest of my life in prison. And dang glad to do it. And you folks are sitting up here trying to take away those parents' rights to raise their kid in the way that they should be. You're trying to punish the doctors with fines and fees or whatever it is you're going to do to them. And psychiatrists are trying to help them. These are licensed people. Who are these people that are saying you're homosexual? Have they got a license? Have they studied? Have they done all this? You're wanting to eliminate one type of person, the ones who's teaching against homosexuality. You're doing nothing for the normal kids or the ones that are non-transsexual. I've tried to talk to my councilman. He's too busy to talk to me because he's doing budget. I respect that, but I haven't even had a chance to talk to him. I've talked to 2 other council people. One of them didn't have much time. You know, and you're about to jam this down our throats is the word that's being used. Think about these kids. You all say you care about kids. No, you don't. You care about taking the rights away from kids. You push them into a mature decision. My wife has breast surgery. That's a life-altering thing. I've had hormone therapy to save my life. We're not transsexual. We didn't change just because I had to go through hormone therapy to save my life, nor her to have breast surgery to save her life. Please do something for our children.
Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Brooke Carnes. I live at 1533 Birch Avenue in Waterloo. I've never done anything like this at all before. This is my first time being here. Anyway, I want to say I am a mother, and I have heard a lot of people think of parents taking rights from parents. And you know what? As a mother, my job is to protect them and mental health. And you're looking at children, you see that this is happening, that people are harmed because they are not supported by their families and they're being taken into these therapies that are trying. You can't change who these children are. And that is what's hurting them. We're not getting kids in a van and driving them to go get their boobs cut off. That's not what's happening right now. That's not what we're talking about. I think that's just not what's going on. And so to protect these children from what potentially we're seeing, children are killing themselves. They're having, children are killing themselves, or they grow up to be adults. That's not what's just happening in your home. These people grow up and they become grown-ups that have these mental health difficulties because they're being put through this thing that is documented as seeing that these are issues. And so I just don't understand. Anyway, so please just protect our children by valuing their mental health, because that is what matters.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Just checking. Okay, before Mr. Greider goes, because I know he's going to have a lot to say. And council, if you have things, please let me know as well. So, sorry, I'm going to give you a breath for a sec, and then we're going to go. So I have a very close friend whose son has transitioned. I led in my church students who have now transitioned. I worked in an elementary school for a long time, and I worked with some amazing parents, and I worked with some parents who have who haven't been so amazing. So we talk about parental choice, and parents get to choose on how they treat their child, whether it's a positive or a negative. And I think as we do that, this isn't something, and I think you're going to hear from some of the people up here, this homosexuality, LGBTQ plus is not a choice. It's who they are. It's who they will be. And one reason I want to speak is because I want to get that out quick, and I also wanted to say, I do have concerns about this from the legal aspect of it. I support this wholeheartedly. However, legally, there are some things that are concerning that I want to, I support this currently. I've had, I'm sure as all of you have had, lots of conversations, lots of things. So while I'm in support of this now, I'm not in favor of moving to suspend the rules as we move forward. And I know I'm one of 6 voices. So Mr. Greider.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. So I want to say something to the children and the LGBTQIA plus people out there. You are normal. You matter. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. I have, in the last week, been threatened with biblical judgment. I've been physically threatened, and that's fine. I will absolutely, every single day, stand in front of marginalized communities and take whatever slings and arrows there are, because that's my privilege. Now, there's been a lot of talk. There's been a lot of language thrown around. So I'm going to assume nothing and teach everything. As someone mentioned that I do teach. I do, and I love every one of my students, no matter how they come to me or how they leave me. First and foremost, Otto v. Boca Raton was brought up in the 11th Circuit. That case was an injunction against an ordinance on a city level. However, I've read that case law backwards and forwards. What the 11th Circuit found in Boca Raton is not that this is a constitutional violation, but rather that they believe that if a higher court, i.e. the Supreme Court, were to look at it, they would find that this isn't a medical practice, but that this is just free speech around a person's belief system. However, in the 8th Circuit, the 9th Circuit, and the 3rd Circuit, including in decisions that have happened post Boca Raton, which happened in 2021. For example, in the 9th Circuit, which covers the West Coast, in Tingley v. Ferguson, where a similar ordinance was passed, the court found that no, in fact, those protections against speech that is professional can in some ways be protected if it will cause a person harm. So that's the important part. Right? That's the important part that I think that we're missing, right? I spent the last week being called every name under the book, and that's fine, because the good book tells me to turn the other cheek and to love my enemy, and I absolutely do. But I've also talked to kids. I've talked to LGBTQIA plus people, and overwhelmingly, what they have said is that they want to be protected. That they want this city government to stand up and protect them. Now, we heard here in this chamber that, there's an increase in support when we just went through an hour and a half where folks opposed the idea that these people exist as human beings. So for all the growth that we have made in the year of our Lord 2023, we have a long way to go. Now, the quote from 2016. Yes, in 2016, I do firmly believe that there was not probably conversion therapy. However, we do know that in 2023, which is the year that we're currently in, that we're pretty sure that there are folks who are thinking about providing this. Now. There was a lot of talk about, we're interfering with medical professionals. So I want to clear up. All 23 major mainline medical associations, from the AMA to the American Psychiatric Association to the American Psychological Association to the American Association of Pediatrics and Minors, all of them have stated that conversion therapy is dangerous, that it is ineffective, and that it violates the Hippocratic oath that every one of those doctors takes. So we're not talking about licensed folks who are on the up and up. What we're talking about is folks who are operating on the down low, preying on people's fears that their kids are gay. There's nothing wrong with being gay in America in 2023. There hasn't ever been anything wrong with being gay in America. So we also talk a little bit about, there's a lot of this fuzzy language, right? There's fuzzy language about what conversion therapy is. Oh, they're just trying to help people. Here's what conversion therapy is. This is what this ordinance bans. It bans electroshock therapy, which I spoke to 3 people who in the state of Iowa have been subjected to electroshock therapy at some point in their life because they were gay. It bans the use of nausea-inducing medication while children are shown homoerotic pictures in what is known as aversion therapy. It bans dunking children's hands in ice while they're read passages about gay love. Is there anyone in favor of that? I'm a father of 2 beautiful children. And if there ever comes a day where I think that I need to electroshock them or dunk them in a vat of water, like this is the Salem witch trials, I have failed as a parent. We are protecting youth. Now, someone brought up the mental health about youth, and that's really important because we know that according to a Journal of American Medicine Association, that 10% of LGBTQIA plus folks are subjected to conversion therapy at some point in their life. And those folks are 10 times more likely to suffer from suicide. They are 8 times more likely to suffer from depression. Now, we talked about the female transition craze, as if there are folks going out and want to be part of a group that is vilified in some squares. The Journal of American Medicine Association found that that's not happening, that there is no huge increase of folks transitioning. So it's important that what we're talking about is a practice done in unsanctioned areas. It is a practice that is done that is abusive. And if we can't see eye to eye on the fundamental belief that we shouldn't be electrocuting children, or we shouldn't be dunking them in ice, or that we shouldn't be giving them nausea-inducing drugs, then I guess we have a fundamental disagreement about what makes basic human rights in the 21st century in this country. Over the last year, we have heard and hear tonight a lot of talk about protecting children, protecting them from masks, protecting them from books, from teachers, from history, from other kids. But nowhere in that conversation have we talked about all kids. It has been very clear tonight that we aren't talking about all kids. We're talking about normal kids. Every kid's normal in America. Every kid has dreams and hopes and fears and sorrows, and they deserve to be who they are. In fact, in the conversations we're having in this state, it's not about kids at all. It's about appealing to a small vocal minority more interested in an ideology than in harmony. It's about winning votes and not dealing with the burgeoning mental health crisis for our young people. It's about politics over people. And over the last year, I have seen the state that was third in the nation to embrace marriage equality forcibly and relentlessly force folks, especially children, back into the closet. Forced them to deny who they are, refuse to extend the hand of healing and hope, but merely answering children begging, "Let me be me," with vitriol, narrow-mindedness, and erasure. No more. No more. Here in this city, in one of the most diverse cities, in the greatest state in the union, We have a chance tonight to say no to the abuse of children. We have a chance to say that bigotry, gay panic, transphobia, and homophobia are relics that belong in the dustbin of history. Now, tonight, we can stand up for our youths who are coming out and saying, please help us. It is Dr. King who told us that as leaders, we are often confronted with the fierce urgency of now. In this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there are such things as being too late. Now is not the time for apathy or complacency. Now is the time for vigorous and positive action. Now is the time to do what is right. Now is the time to protect kids. Now is the time to not hide behind legal jargon, but to do what is right and to write into the book of laws that every American in this city, regardless of their orientation or their identity, matters, and that we will not condone nor allow them to be abused. And so I hope and I pray that all of my colleagues tonight will join me in voting for this ordinance with the urgency to protect the lives and our city's future youth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grider. Any other counselors?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
We'll go to Ms. Grider. All right, go ahead.
So there was a comment made about me smiling. And I smiled when it was brought up about parents, and I thought about my own mom. So I was 12 years old when I came out to my mom as gay. And I'll say that again because I don't hide and I'm not intimidated by any of your letters or your comments. I was 12 years old when I came out as gay. And the first thing my mom said was, I already knew. I was just waiting on you to find out. She didn't shun me. She didn't disrespect me. She didn't holler at me. She didn't subject me to things that would break my confidence. She loved me. And now, 18 years later, I was the first openly gay person to be able to have this seat. So leave it to some of your beliefs. I wouldn't be sitting here. The door that I opened wouldn't be open because you don't believe that I deserve it based off of who I am. And I think that that right there is immoral. My grandmother always told me growing up that church is in your heart and God knows your heart. So for anybody to come up here and sit on that podium, stand at that podium and judge anybody, I don't even believe that that is of God. I don't believe that it is your job to judge anyone or to come up here doing any of the things that y'all just did. I respect it. But at the same time, I stand here for all of my gays, all of my transgender brothers and sisters, everyone that identifies LGBTQ+, and I say that I'm always going to stand with you regardless. And if anybody doesn't understand the way that we walk, they don't have to. I walk happily in my step every day, and that is why I'm going to vote for this. I do want to figure out if we are in trouble legally. However, I will never be for youth being tormented, tortured, abused, and I will never be for someone coming up here and saying that the lifestyle that I live is not normal. I am normal, I am loved, I am blessed, I am great, and I am not intimidated by anything that's going on here. The gays are loved. We are sinful, but I represent you, and I will fast and pray on your healing so that you don't have any hatred in your heart.
Thank you, Mr. Bozen.
Thank you, sir. I had a lot of emails, phone calls, text messages, and I don't feel we should be pushing forward with something that it's been said more than once. We don't know if it's legal or not. I don't think it's in the city council purview to do this and to deal with conversion therapy. I said in the work session, I plan on voting no. We had a work session 2 weeks ago. It's up for a complete vote and to suspend the rules. I would table it indefinitely, but I don't think I'd get 4 votes. That said, I will vote no, and I will vote no to suspend the rules for the next 2 meetings to give the people that don't feel like they've had an opportunity to look at this, to research it, to digest it, an opportunity to come back in the next two weeks and 2 weeks from that to speak on this issue. I think we're rushing it, trying to do it in one night. So I'm just one vote. I'm voting no, and I will not move forward with suspending the rules. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bozen. Mr. Nichols, Mr. Giles?
Sure. As Mr. Dillaboo stated, I've been quite busy parsing through the budget lately, and this has been on my mind quite a bit lately. One thing that I want to, so I'm a Christian. I attend church here in the Cedar Valley. My grandmother is a pastor, Baptist pastor. I've been raised through the church my entire life. My sister came out as gay when I was 16, so down in Florida, around that hurricane time. And the thing that really, I guess, stood out to me the most here is actually what Councilwoman Wilder just stated, which is, it is not our place as humans to cast judgment. That is only in the purview of the Lord himself. And that's what I personally believe as a Christian. Something that truly bothered me today is the use of straw man arguments. And straw man arguments are when you take a subject and you take an argument, you change the argument, and you argue toward the argument that you have presented instead of the argument that is present. And the argument that is present is, should the city enact a ban on conversion therapy? The confusion that I think I am seeing currently is a lack of definition of conversion therapy, which I think Mr. Greider did a great job of defining what he states in that ordinance to be conversion therapy. And I would say that I don't think anyone is opposed to banning those means of, I would say, torture for anyone. So it brings us back to that original point. Do we oppose that definition? And should that definition of conversion therapy be illegal? Yes. There is no need for physical torture to make anyone change their sexual orientation. And here's my argument backwards to this. If conversion therapy, as stated by Mr. Greider, does not work, and let's reverse that. Could anyone take you and put you through conversion therapy and turn you gay if you were straight? I know that couldn't happen for me. I know that that is not possible because I'm straight. That's how I was born. And I know my sister, no one could put her through conversion therapy and turn her straight because she's gay. That's how she was born. When I was elected to city council, I stated 3 things I wanted to do: create neighborhood associations, which is working, transparency, and making sure that we had civil conversations. And one thing I will say I've appreciated is that in general, here amongst ourselves, regardless of our opinions, we've been quite civil. I am concerned greatly about the legality, but that doesn't mean I don't support this, but I want more time. And I think in the essence of transparency, I'm a yes. I'm going to vote forward on having this occur. However, I am in the same boat as our Mayor Pro Tem, where I will not be voting yes to suspend the rules. So with that, I give the table back to you, Mr.
Nichols.
As with everyone else up here, I've gotten a lot of emails, some calls, had some long conversations with people on the phone. And I'm coming at this from a couple different places. As a healthcare professional, as a pharmacist, I see that all of my colleagues in the medical profession, in the psychiatric profession, in the pediatric areas, they do not support conversion therapy. But as a father and as a Christian, I am coming at this with love. I will be judged when my days are over by my Maker. But my teachings, my Christian teachings, teach me to come at everything with love. The greatest of these is love. And so that's why I'm voting in support of this ban on conversion therapy.
Mr. Greider, did you have?
Just one more thing, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. So I just wanted to be clarified that it is incredibly normal for ordinances to have suspension of the rules already pre-put into them. Is that correct, Mrs. Felkley?
No.
I'm getting a nod, yes. So this isn't being rammed through. I will also vote no on suspending the rules so that folks have time. But let's be clear that when we're speaking that we're being factual. Nothing is being rammed through. Nothing is being done under the cover of darkness. This is all transparent. So when we're having conversations, let's make sure that we're being factual about those conversations.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Mr. Childs.
just a quick question. Do we even have to make the motion to suspend the rules?
Yeah.
Yes.
We do have to make it, okay. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Any further comments? Everybody good? I just wanted to say thank you for those of you that came up, for those of you up here with me on a very sensitive topic and having a good dialogue. And I hope as we move this forward, it continues. With that, roll call, please.
Do you want to repeat what the motion is?
I can. I have to find it. Do you want to read it again, Mr. Greider?
Yes, Mr.
Sorry.
Mayor Pro Tem. It is a motion to receive, file, consider, and pass for the first time an ordinance amending the City of Waterloo Code of Ordinances by enacting a new Chapter 12 Youth Mental Health Protection of Title III Business and License Regulation.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, the motion passes 5-1 with Mr. Vosen voting no.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Motion has been made to suspend the rules. Roll call, please. The motion to suspend the rules fails on a 6-0 vote.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.